Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Daniel Sokatch, and I have the great privilege and honor of being the CEO of the New Israel Fund. So, let me begin by saying that Nomi, you're not going to like this very much. I warned her about this weeks ago. Nomi is a lot of things. Those of you who know her know. She is kind and tough and brilliant and funny and tough. But she does not like a fuss to be made about herself. She genuinely does not like to be the center of attention. And she's mortified at being feted and celebrated and honored. So, Nomi, this is going to be painful for you. And I watched your face during that video, and that was painful for you too. But you actually have to let me do this. On the eve of the conclusion of your extraordinary service as our board chair, you can't actually tell me to be quiet because I'm up here and you're down there. She just told me. She just told me to be quiet, by the way. How then do you describe Nomi Chazan? Because I get that honor tonight. I have worked very closely with Nomi during the 2.5 years of my directorship, and it has been, amongst all of the extraordinary experiences of leading the New Israel Fund, the most extraordinary. How do you describe Nomi Chazan? She is Yerushalmi. Born in Jerusalem, she lives there still. She is a deeply devoted family person, always politely stepping away from a conversation or a meeting to take a call from a child or her mom. And what a family she comes from. We heard some of us a little earlier this evening about that extraordinary family. Her father was the Israeli ambassador to the United States and then a university president. Her mom was also an ambassador and a member of the Knesset. Her daughter is now a consular official in New York City. This is a great family dedicated to service of their country. And Nomi Chazan, as you all know, was the deputy speaker of the Israeli Knesset and a Knesset member for years for the Meretz Party. She's also a scholar and a teacher, and she studied with us here in America, doing her BA and her MA at Columbia and returning home to do her PhD at the Hebrew University. She is Dean of the School of Government and Society at the Academic College of Tel Aviv-Yafo, Professor Emerita at the Hebrew University. She was visiting professor at Harvard and has lectured at dozens of universities around the world, authored and edited 8 books on comparative politics, written countless articles on Arab-Israeli relations, Israeli politics, African politics, and women in politics. And she is a patriot. As I mentioned, she served her country, completing 3 terms as a member of the Knesset. In addition to being the deputy speaker, she also served as a member of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, the Economics Committee, the House Committee, the Education Committee, not shockingly, the Committee on the Status of Women. And she was considered at the time one of Israel's top legislators, and she specialized in human rights, consumer affairs, and gender equality. But Nomi Chazan is also a humanitarian, and today she continues to serve as a leader of Israel's human rights, women's, and peace movements. And she is, of course, the president of the New Israel Fund. And in this capacity, she is also a boss. Mine, in fact. But more than that, she is a partner. And she is a friend and a mighty support. Part of my job is keeping our team's spirits up during difficult times. But it's Nomi who keeps my spirits up. It's Nomi who I call to worry and kvetch and tell her I can't sleep. And even though she worries and kvetches as much as I do, when I call her, she always says the same thing. Relax. We'll figure it out. Rest. And it's been a tremendous honor to lead NIF with you, Nomi, these past 2.5 years with Rachel Liel and our team. Because during your presidency, the New Israel Fund was called to change and evolve and grow as an organization and to play an ever greater role in working to secure Israel's founding values. We could not have done this without your leadership. But even all of this doesn't really describe who you are, Nomi, let alone what you mean to me and to the New Israel Fund and to the movement for social justice and human rights in Israel. In a funny way, that job was done most effectively by the very people who began the latest round of what Nomi calls the democratic recession in Israel today, because all of you remember that when the vanguard of the de-democratization camp launched the attack on the New Israel Fund that would ultimately metastasize into the anti-democratic legislative agenda that we continue to face today, they did so by attacking the most prominent and most visible face and symbol of the New Israel Fund and the civil society sector that we represent, and that face was Nomi Chazan's. And when they chose you, Nomi, as the symbol of everything that in their opinion was wrong with Israel, that it was too open and too equal and too outward-looking and too liberal and too intellectual and too forward-thinking and too democratic, when they did that, they reminded the rest of us that they were right. That Nomi, in fact, does embody all of these qualities that reflect Israel at its best, and because of them, she became not just our board president, but also the living symbol of our movement and our values. That attack happened literally on the eve of my first board meeting, and it was a hell of a way to start a new job. But even through those difficult months of what I like to call, and Nomi doesn't like when I call it, the new normal, the rock upon which I depended for support was the very person at the center of those attacks. And despite the horrible posters depicting her with the now infamous horn, despite the lies and the libels that were leveled against her, Nomi remained, for the most part, calm, cool, collected, and ready to fight back. And she never, ever lost her sense of humor, even and perhaps especially when it came to the personal attacks. In classic Nomi fashion, just the other day, while telling us as we prepared these events, quote, "Don't overdo the personal sacrifice part," when we were talking about what she went through, she observed, "Those horns helped NIF more than we can imagine." A few days ago, I showed Nomi an email that we wanted to send out to the tens of thousands of NIF supporters who can't be with us here tonight in person, but are here with us in spirit as we celebrate Nomi. I wrote that Nomi was one of my heroes. Now, those of you who know Nomi well know that she is always the professor, and as such, she is always the stickler for language, be it Hebrew or English or probably half a dozen African dialects with which I am unfamiliar. And you won't be surprised to learn that one of her comments on the draft of the email that I sent her was, quote, "Can a woman be a hero?" When Nomi's laconic in an email, you know she has an opinion about someone. And when we can disagree here tonight about whether the designation heroine is too old-fashioned for 2012, I stand by my original statement. Because today, when the Israel that we love so dearly is truly at a crossroads, as Brian said earlier, when its democracy is challenged as never before, when the founding values enshrined in Israel's Declaration of Independence need to be protected and defended and shouted from the hilltops, you, Nomi, are a hero. And I think, as I think of what you mean to me and to all of us, as we gather here as an NIF family in the city of our birth, the day after Pride Day, I'm reminded of the words of one of our great local leaders here in San Francisco, Harvey Milk, who said during the darkest, most difficult days of the early gay rights movement, quote, "I know that you can't live on hope alone, but without it, life is not worth living. And you gotta give them hope." I know you sometimes joke about my optimism, Nomi, during these dark times, but you're one of the reasons you give me that hope. In that spirit, and in recognition of the hope that you continue to give all of us, it's a great honor, on behalf of the entire NIF family, that you've led so bravely and so ably these past 4 years, to name you as this year's guardian of democracy. And I'm proud to present to you this beautiful paper cut with a verse from Proverbs, translated, one hopes, ably by the great Rabbi David Rosen. "Compassion and truth met, justice and peace kissed. Truth shall spring from the land, and justice will be reflected from the heavens." That sums you up, Nomi Chazan. Thank you.